Good day, and welcome to another episode of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. In this episode, I wanted to discuss a possible operation by the Russian Federation in seizing the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And there's discussion on whether Russia would seize one state, and with its intent of seizing possibly Estonia, would be to secure ethnic Russians living in the Narva area, in this area here. But I do not believe that that would be in Russia's best interest to seize just one Baltic state, and I'll try to explain why. If they did move on Estonia, and either seized all of Estonia or part of Estonia in terms of the ethnic Russian areas of Estonia, you would definitely see a NATO move into Lithuania and Latvia in terms of bringing in heavy forces in anticipation of further Russian operations into Latvia or Lithuania. So Russia, upon its seizing of, just say, Estonia, and they did not proceed into Latvia and Lithuania, would find itself very quickly with large, heavy NATO forces, possibly United States heavy NATO forces inside of Lithuania and Latvia. And I would believe that the United States would probably be the first to move actual heavy forces into these two states, and that would, for all intensive purposes, have the Kaliningrad enclave surrounded by NATO heavy forces, and then obviously, then the question is, would the United States then make a move to retake Estonia? So I don't think the Russians would want that to happen, where you would see large, heavy brigade combat teams of the United States permanently stationed in Lithuania, and not just probably heavy brigades. You would probably see divisions. So that's why I believe you would see all three Baltic states secured by the Russian Federation. And when you hear about war games conducted by the RAND Corporation and some other think tanks, you often hear about the Russians seizing control of Estonia, possibly Latvia, within 60 to 80 hours. Again, 3 to 4 days. And you also kind of perpetually hear about two very large Russian units that are usually always the foundation of many of these war games against the Russian Federation. And that's these two units here that belong to the 1st Tank Army. It is the 4th Tank Division and the 2nd Mechanized Division. And these are very large divisional-sized formations. As you can see here, 2nd Mechanized Division has 2 mechanized regiments, a tank regiment, and a host of support elements, and as does the 4th Tank Division. So about 300 tanks here, 200 tanks here, well over 1,000 armored vehicles for all these formations. And the premise is that NATO would see these two units being deployed on railheads and then moved into Belarus or near the border with Latvia, or however the operation would be conducted. And they would always assume that these heavy divisions would be utilized. I do not believe that is the case. I do not think Russia would need to utilize these heavy divisions initially, and thus display their hand, so to speak. I believe that they could conduct operations against all three Baltic states without the movement of large, heavy formations. And what I'm going to do now is just take a look at the formations that would probably be used against the Baltic states. And I'm going to start over in Kaliningrad. And the first effort would obviously be for the Russians to seize the Suwalki Gap. That is this area here. This is the border between Poland and Lithuania. It's a very small strip of land, but it could facilitate the movement of Polish forces into Lithuania. And Russia would want to prevent that from happening. And the way I envision that Russia would prevent that from happening would be the quick deployment of the 11th Tank Regiment and the 76th Reconnaissance Battalion that would immediately move into the Suwalki Gap area, and that would force Poland to possibly engage Russian forces directly, and I'm not sure they would want to immediately do that because Russia would then have the option of hitting targets inside of Poland with its Iskander missiles. So I'm not sure Poland would want to immediately do that, and then obviously NATO would need to immediately vote on coming to support Lithuania, and the jury is still out on that. So again, I would envision the 11th Tank Regiment and the 76th Reconnaissance Battalion, possibly augmented by Russian National Guard units to seize the Suwalki Gap. You would also see these forces here, the 79th Mechanized Brigade and the 7th Mechanized Regiment. And these two units contain about 6 motorized rifle battalions. I think these would be used in the defense of Kaliningrad and would remain in place. I think the units that would actually enter Lithuania from Kaliningrad would be this unit, the 336th Naval Infantry Brigade. Again, this is more of a rapid deployment unit with special forces capable units, as well as you can see here is 2 Naval Infantry Battalions, 1 Assault Battalion, a Reconnaissance Battalion, 1 Flamethrower Company, 1 Self-Propelled Artillery Battalion, an Artillery Battalion, 1 Reactive Battery, 1 Anti-Tank Battery, and 1 Air Defense Battalion. And then you would also see that force being augmented by the 561st Maritime Reconnaissance Point, which is a Special Forces Battalion. Other units that would probably immediately be used against the Baltic states, of course, this unit would form the brunt of the maneuver units, and that would be the 76th Air Assault Division, along with its regiments, the 237th Air Assault Regiment, the 104th Air Assault Regiment, and the 234th Air Assault Regiment. And remember, all these Russian airborne regiments can act as mechanized infantry. They all are able to deploy as mechanized infantry units. Okay, and then obviously you would also see the 2nd Special Forces Brigade. This unit as well could be augmented with BMPs or BTR armored fighting vehicles for mechanized operations very quickly. And the 76 also has a separate tank battalion, which has been added. So this is in fact could act as a heavy division. Well, not a heavy division, but definitely a division with heavy elements to include armored infantry fighting vehicles, APCs, what have you. The other units that would probably be involved would be this unit here, the 106th Airborne Division. And you would see that rapidly move into the Baltics, and at the same time this unit as well, the 98th Airborne Division. So you'd probably see 3 Russian airborne / air assault divisions, and remember, a lot of these can be fully mechanized and very quickly moved to the border with Latvia, Estonia, or directly airdropped in. I would anticipate you would see airdrops, but mostly a lot of these units would be deployed on the ground with armored infantry fighting vehicles. Another issue at hand in terms of Russian deployment strategy would be its special forces. You would see elements, or if not all, of the 45th Special Forces Brigade. This is the new Special Operations Command of the Russian Armed Forces. Obviously, these units would be definitely involved in the operation. Another unit that would quickly be brought to bear without much satellite observation in terms of seeing heavy units being moved would be this unit, the 61st Naval Infantry Brigade, that could quickly be moved into the Baltics with very little preparatory time, and that would be accompanied by the 420th Maritime Reconnaissance Point, which is again Special Forces. You could also see this unit, because again all these units come under the command of the Northern Fleet, and these are the 200th Mechanized Brigade, which is actually comes under the command of the Northern Fleet, could augment the Marine units with a tank battalion or an extra mechanized battalion. I'm sure they'd want to keep, obviously, forces near the border with Norway. I'm sorry, with Finland and Norway. But elements of these units could definitely be assigned to these Marine units when they launch their operations against the Baltic states. There is another entity that comes into play as well, is the Russian National Guard. We tend to not hear too much about that in terms of its use as a force to quell riots within the Russian Federation, but that is really the basis for special police units within the National Guard. There are also approximately 16 special forces detachments, which are about battalion strength, that could quickly be moved to support operations inside Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. There's also a unit in Moscow. It's a rapid deployment division that contains anywhere from 12 to 15,000 troops, including a special forces regiment that could also be used. So the idea that NATO would see this massive movement of heavy military power being moved in terms of heavy divisions, i.e., the 2nd Mechanized Division and the 4th Tank Division, I do not believe you would see that happening. I believe that Russia could do this with the forces listed that I've explained that are definitely in the area, and that could be used. I mean, obviously, we would see some heavy units be used, and here's one unit that's very close to the border, the 25th Mechanized Brigade, that being supported by airborne troops in a mechanized fashion, could move very quickly into Estonia, and I think that forces are present and sufficient in the region where Russia could respond very quickly, and they could actually take over Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia without the movement of these heavy forces, again, which would be seen on satellite. You also have other units that could be moved via Maskarova, via the Russian idea of deception. And you have these units here, such as the 34th Mechanized Mountain Brigade. You have a host of special forces, Spetsnaz units, which would definitely be moved and could be moved rather secretly closer to the border of the Baltic states without getting much notice. And then again, the Marine units. We're seeing more of these Marine units standing up, such as the 177th Naval Infantry Regiment. That could quietly be moved from the Caspian Sea with its 3 naval infantry battalions to support those other naval infantry brigades in entering the Baltics. That compounded with, as I have spoke, of the National Guard and its special operations forces, which could be heavily used in the Baltics. I think the components to successfully seize the Baltics are present and can be moved very quickly without the movement of heavy forces.